Hello, and welcome back to the It's In You podcast. Today, I want to talk about silencing the noise from everything around us and learning to trust your own body. I think we're in a world where everything is very loud and it is very overwhelming as to what we should be doing for our health and wellness. It gets confusing. I hear people saying to me all the time they feel confused and they don't know what they should be doing or what the right thing to do is. And the thing is that it feels so overwhelming and it's so confusing that people end up doing nothing. So today I want to cut through all this noise and I want to come down to the facts and the facts of what is right for you. So you can start trusting your own instincts and trusting your own body. The biggest thing that I think has happened over the years, and it makes me sad to see, is how much people have, lost touch with their own intuition and their own body and what is actually right for them. And that's, I think we really need to get back to the basics with this, and start really trusting us and what's right for us. For me, years ago, my husband was quite sick. And he would go to the doctors and he was not well. And he'd go to the doctors and they would just give him an antibiotic and send him home. And that happened for 6 months. And, it got to a point where I was like, I was thinking he was making it up. I was thinking that he was making it up, that he was just being dramatic and whatever else. And that's how the doctors made him feel too. And I was thinking, I was agreeing with them. I was kind of agreeing with them. And it wasn't until he got really sick when and so he was having blood infections. And it wasn't until he was really sick where his bowels tore through his bladder, that they realized that he actually was quite sick. And I felt terrible because I was trusting these people that didn't really know him. It taught me, and that led on to surgeries and different other stuff like that. Probably 9 years ago. So he's all better from that stuff. But it was during that phase of our lives, he was in that year. So he spent 6 months of being undiagnosed. So 6 months of he would have infections and they just kept giving him antibiotics. We didn't know then that, like men having blood infections was really rare, blah, blah, blah. 6 months of that. Then they realized, he had diverticulitis and he needed to have his bowels cut away and whatever else. And then in that time, he was in and out of hospital for 10 weeks. So he would be in hospital, and then he would get discharged, and then something would happen and he would go back. But what that taught me, and what I say to everybody from that experience, and then I'm really shortening a traumatic time for us, But in the time, he then also ended up with a colostomy bag. He had that for a year. During that time, he ended up with sepsis, and he was very sick with that, and nearly died from that. He then had the colostomy bag reversed, and now lives normally. So that was like a year, but what that whole experience, and I'm shortening the experience, but what that whole experience taught me is that, and what we didn't do is we didn't fight enough for what we knew what was going on. And, we were just had become out of tune with, his body, and, he definitely was out of tune with his body. We weren't advocating for him enough. And they had a thing called Ryan's rule here, and they kept sending him home, and he kept sending home, and then I said to them, in a week he's gonna end up back here in a few days in an ambulance, which had happened multiple times. And we said it to the doctor and they just laughed at us, and it was also overwhelming and stressful that we had really lost our voice to stick up for our body. And what I want you to think about is that your body better than anybody. So you know what works for you, what works for your body. So what I want to cut through that kind of noise I'm talking about is this was a health problem, but I'm really want to focus on the wellness industry. But the reason that I like using this is because that in our circumstance here, it really taught me that I have to advocate for myself, and get my husband to advocate for himself, but that it really taught me that nobody knows you better than you. Nobody knows your body better than you. And I still, to this day, my gran is in a home and there's different things she'll say to me, and different people like, take this, take that. And I'll say to her, you know your body better than anyone. So they're telling you that you don't need this or you don't need that. But I was like, what is your instincts telling you that you need? Because you know better than anyone. And the same with the wellness industry. There's so many different trends, different things. When I grew up, I'm 42. So when I grew up, I was taught about eating less. You got to eat less and get down to 1,200 calories or, more. And it's, and there was different diets. And like, I remember, ladies doing the cabbage soup diet or the this or the that. And like other things. And there's obviously like Weight Watchers and points and all those other things. I was lucky enough that I didn't have family members that put a real focus on that stuff. So I only ever remember my mum doing one type of thing where she put a focus on losing weight, and she lost weight. She was not eat the fruit and have the wine. She would have wine. She used to include a glass of wine, which, I guess that's her finding the balance. There's fasting and there's different juicing and different cleansers and detoxes and this and that. And it's so overwhelming. And if you are, heavily on social media, you'll see one thing from one person, and then there's, something that from another person telling you this is the next best thing, and someone saying that they lost weight this way. And everybody wants that quick fix. I get it. If there was a magic pill that, could just do it, it would be here, but there's not. And the thing is that we've got to cut through all this noise, and we've got to understand and see the bigger picture, of your overall health. And that the more that you can tune in with your body and understand your body, the better you're going to be in the long run. I remember a friend of my husband's, went on some multi-level marketing product to lose weight, and I feel like it was shakes. I can't remember the name of it, but it was quite popular at the time. He lost all this weight, and then he became a consultant, and he was trying to sell the product and everything else, which is all fine. And obviously, like, I remember my husband showing me photos going, oh my God, look how much weight this guy's lost, blah, blah, blah. The thing is, and he was, really loud on social media, within his crowd about how good he was feeling and what he'd done, which is all great. But the thing is, he's triple the size now. That was probably 10 years ago. It's triple the size now. So I just really want us to get away from these fads. Get away from these fads. And I could tell you like 100 different stories of people that have done things and blah blah blah. And but the thing is that I think that lots of people have very valid points, or that it feels important to them, but I want you to cut through all that noise and break it down as to what works for your lifestyle and where you're at life. And like just after COVID, just after COVID, I'd noticed that I'd put on some weight, and I understood my food and my exercise, and I was like, so then I changed my exercise around, and I looked adding in stress management tools, and I like went through the cycle of things that I knew, and then still this extra bit of weight hadn't shifted. And then I was like, okay, well, this is weird, so I'll go get my bloods taken. So go get my bloods taken and see where that's at. And I remember going to a doctor, this was probably 2 years ago, and I went to a doctor, and I was like, and I said to her, like, I know I'm not overweight, but I'm overweight for where I like to be at. I haven't spent my life dieting, where, I'm in, I understand my nutrition. I understand my exercise. I understand my daily movement. I'm doing all of those things, but I still have this extra weight. What can I do? And she just says, there's nothing you can do. And she just said, you just have to work harder. When you get older, you just have to work harder. That was her advice to me. And I sat in there because, I had all my bloods taken and I was hoping to be in there and then say, yes, this is out of whack, blah, blah, but nothing was widely out of whack. And I felt like crying. I just felt like crying when she said that to me. And I thought, I like my body. I like myself. I like my body. I haven't had years of people putting me down for my body, which I know lots of people have had that and they have a bad body image and all of those things. And this made me feel like I want to cry because she just was like, nah, there's nothing you can do. It is what it is. You should just, and it pissed me off. It pissed me off, but I came out there and I just wanted to cry. And that's, where I don't want that for anyone. I don't want anyone to feel that way because there is always stuff you can do. For someone that doesn't know you, that only sees you for 50, and I'm not here to bag out doctors. I think they're very important. I have lots of friends that are doctors. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to get you to see that you need to trust your own body and trust your instincts. And your instincts, they're guiding you, and they're better than what, they know you better than anybody. I know people have, they've maybe dieted their whole life and they've, you need guidance around that type of stuff of breaking those type of habits. We've lost touch with our bodies and what our bodies are actually telling us. And they're giving us signals every day. And it's really cool when we can start to tune into that and recognize that, our bodies are our best teacher and they're teaching us stuff. We as a society have just switched off, and we're thinking that, obviously there's so many trends on social media and all that, and you see people doing things and getting this result, and they got the result quick. So I just want to do that because it's simple and it's quick and I don't have to actually give up on the things that I want, or, and we just jump on this bandwagon and we jump from thing to thing to thing. And then, what happens in the end? We think that we are the problem. And you're not the problem at all. It's the diets. You don't need to be on a diet. We just need to start working on habits and working on things that work for you. Our body gives you cues on, we have hunger cues, ones where we are cues of when we're tired. People think, oh no, I can't rest, or I need to do this, or tired, that our body gives cues we're feeling flat or stressed or overwhelmed, all of those things. But we just ignore it and think that, something's better. But, I really want you to start picking up on what the signals that your body is giving you and start to actually listen to them. I remember a few years ago, I started to pick up on, I had heard people talking about following your cycle, and I was like, yeah, whatever, my cycle doesn't really bother me. I'm, not going to bother about really, and I finally started to tune into my cycle and listen to where my cycle was at. And I realized that I did have quite significant changes, where my personality is, you just got to push through, you'll be fine. I'll get through everything because you have to, so that's kind of what I was thinking. And when I started to actually follow my cycle, I realized I did have quite significant effects of emotions or energy levels and all of that, more than I realized. And it was really interesting. It was interesting to notice and then to go, okay, now I take note. And Lee came home one day and he was like, what are you doing? And I was sitting on the couch and he's like, why, what are you doing? Why are you sitting down? That's weird, And I was like, I'm just tired, I just had someone in today and they were like, I'm feeling really flat and blah, blah, blah. I actually had two people saying the same thing. And I just said to them, well, we'll go lighter weights. Doesn't mean you're weaker. It means you're listening to your body and you're listening to what it's telling you. And your body will thank you for it. And, the goal is The goal is longevity. The goal is leading a good quality life for a long time. So we don't want to thrash our bodies and make it feel shit. We want it to be strong and move well and all of those other things. But, we want to be able to move for life and, continue to move. So, starting to tune more into your bodies and listening to the cues. And, if you're a female, the first thing is, start tuning your cycle. And, yes, whatever stage you are in life, if you've had hysterectomies, if you are, post-menopausal, or if you are perimenopausal, or any of those things. And yes, if you feel like your cycle's everywhere, all of those things, you still have some form of a cycle. My 90-year-old grandma who had a hysterectomy 45 plus years ago still has a cycle, and it still affects her. So, I want you to think, to start tuning in to that. And it is one of the things of starting to tune into your body. The other thing is, I really feel like we become so disconnected to our bodies and our body's ability and what it can do. Not only that's how we get injured, or as we get older, that's how we fall, and we start to not, trust it. And then we give in to, let's talk about food. We are disconnected from our bodies, and we are forcing food down because you've seen this thing that says you need to eat little meals, or 6 times a day, or you feel like you have to eat breakfast but you don't want to eat breakfast. It's just you're forcing stuff down, and maybe you don't need to. Maybe you just need to tune in and know that, this person said I have to do this. Well, that's fine. Let's actually see if it works for you and then suit it to your lifestyle. The thing is that when we learn to trust our bodies more and trust your intuition and what your body's trying to tell you, you're more likely to stick to something. I always say the way that I eat and behave now, I definitely didn't behave this way 20 years ago. It's not something that I changed instantly. I made little changes over time, and those little changes become long-term changes. I get lots of people, they'll come to me and they'll say, I'm going to cut out, the biggest thing is say, cut out alcohol. They'll say, I'm going to cut out alcohol, for blah, blah, blah time. And I'll say, well, that's fine if that's what you want to do. But the thing is, are you going to do that forever? Or I've seen people, it really annoys me, or it breaks my heart when I see people, they'll be on certain challenges or whatever, and they'll do things for a certain amount of time. And then that challenge, so to speak, is over. And then they go out and they blow out. I just don't get it, because let's find something that works for your lifestyle and it works for you. And what works for you is different to the person next to you. It's different to your best friend. It's different to the person you see on social media, or the celebrity, or any of those things, because nobody's life is like yours. Nobody's life is like everyone's life is different. We have different stresses, different things involved, different commitments, different things we want to do, different likes, different dislikes. So there's no one tailored plan. There's things that have been around for a very long time, and it's going back to the basics. What's the basic nutrition? Now, whenever you get information from somebody about health or wellness or whatever you want to do, I want you to stop and think for a second, where are they coming from? Where are they coming from? Where is their bias? Because they'll have a bias. They'll have a bias because it's maybe something that they've done and they've got a result from. So that's where that bias, they might have a bias because they are getting a kickback from it, a financial kickback in some way. Or they'll have a bias because it's their business, or so I want you to really think, where's this bias from? The same as when I went to a different GP, and she was like, she had just started fasting and she was getting great results herself from it, and she was loving it. She told me a book to read, she gave me all this information, and then she was telling me to fast 40 hours twice a week. And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I didn't enjoy it. I did it a couple of times. I didn't enjoy it. And then when I went back and I said to her, I still I'm tired, I still feel crappy, blah, blah, blah. And she was like, well, why are you not doing that? Why won't you do that? And I was like, because I don't want to. And she just was like, oh, well. And her bias, there's nothing wrong with it, but her bias was that really worked for her. But the thing is, it was making me miserable, and I just didn't want to do it. And, I just didn't want to do it. But that's what I want you to think is, so she was like really pushing that. And she just was like, well, if you don't do that, then, And I just really want you to think, any wellness or fitness trend or any of those things, I want you to think what their bias is. And I want you to start tuning in. That might work. That was the thing that was working for her. And she was feeling amazing. And she had lost lots of weight and she was feeling really great. I just couldn't think of anything worse. And I didn't want to do it. And, that's what the thing is, that didn't work for me. It doesn't mean I'm a loser. It doesn't mean, because we then start to give those things meaning. And that's the thing. We give it a meaning and it's actually just not, right for you. And your makeup is different and your lifestyle is different. She was in a completely different lifestyle to where I'm at. So I want us to start tuning in, blocking out the noise, thinking about where is their bias. There's nothing wrong with somebody passing on information that's worked for them, that they have done it, they've got this great result, they did blah, blah, blah. That is amazing. And we can all learn something from it. But I want you to take all this information, and you need to kind of test it on yourself and then go, this works for me, this doesn't work for me. Because that's how you are going to find something that you are going to be able to stick to for life. And that's how you will get long-term results, because it will end up feeling like, everyone says to me, when we do things, they'll go, I don't feel like I used to hate exercise. Now I really love it. And I don't feel like I'm even exercising. I don't feel like I'm on a diet, and I'm eating food because of how it makes me feel. All of those things, and I just think we've lost touch with that. We've lost touch in trusting ourselves and trusting our bodies. And we're taking everyone else's information and everyone else, we're taking their stuff, that we have to only do it that way. And you have to really look and tailor stuff towards you. And I take all, everything I've learned, all the studies I've done, I take all the information in, and then I have to apply it as to what actually works for me. When we feel disconnected, so when we feel disconnected from our bodies, and it leads to burnout, and it does lead to us always feeling like we're failing. And it's actually not that we're failing, we're just not listening to, we're following something that's not right for us, and we're not listening to our bodies. People think they need just more willpower, and you just need to knuckle down and, more willpower. I listened to something the other day, this person fasted for however many days, water fast or something. Again, that's amazing if they can do that. I just don't like it. I don't like doing it. So, work out the thing that so I want you to think about this, is what messages are your body telling you? I know there's certain foods that when I eat them, my body feels great. It really does. It feels great and it loves them. And, there's other foods that I eat Dad doesn't like. And again, we're not perfect. No one's perfect. But it is starting to recognize the things that make you feel good and picking up on that. Starting to eat those foods, and again, it's the reason. And I like cashews, but cashews bloat me. And I remember, so I don't eat them that often because I don't like the bloated feeling. But I don't feel like I'm missing out because I made the choice, because I don't enjoy how it feels. I remember my friend, I was saying to her, "You're bloated," and she was like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And I was like I could tell from looking at her stomach. And I said, "You're bloated." And she didn't even recognize that she was bloated. Because she got used to that feeling. Years ago, when I stopped drinking milk, again, nothing wrong if you like milk, that's fine, but it doesn't really agree with my stomach. And I stopped drinking milk. I realized I had like a pain in my stomach every day, but I was so used to it, I didn't even recognize that it was there. So there's so many things that we can start to recognize and become more aware of. Getting back into the intuition of your own body and how you're feeling. And, so one thing that you can do to start this is to pause, take a stop. I remember, just a few weeks ago, I booked into yoga in the morning, and I like to go on a Sunday morning, I like to go for a beach walk first and then I really love hot yoga. And then go to that. And then I didn't have enough time to go to the beach walk. I found myself being, and I was really annoyed I couldn't go. And I thought, stop, you can go, just don't go to yoga. And I took that moment to kind of recognize what my body was telling me. I love feeling I love the beach. The beach is my happy place. I love the sand in my feet. I love the water. I love the sun, the sand, it really makes me happy. And so I just canceled the yoga class and I went to the beach instead. And, that was fine. It was fitted in with the rest of my day. So some steps that we can take, some tangible steps that you can have to start to tune more in with your bodies and quiet the noise and start to reconnect yourself is you could keep a food journal and talk about how do you feel before and after eating. So that's when we can start to recognize if maybe certain food isn't agreeing with you. And I know people that know that and they'll go, look, I know I really love this takeaway or something, I'm going to have it, but I know I'm going to pay for it after. Amazing. You understand. And that's the thing, is you're making that choice because you understand your body. So you can start to keep a food journal. Not worrying about calories, but just talking about feelings and your feelings about food. And number 2, you could ask yourself some questions before trying a new trend. So I really want you to think, does this new trend support your lifestyle? Are you doing it because you feel pressure? Or are you doing it because you're curious? And what type of result are you looking for out of this? Third step for trying to tune in more is practice mindful meals. So take no phones, no judgment, just sit, enjoy the meal, tune in with how we're feeling. I think they say, again, it's recommended to chew a certain amount of times. I know just rethinking on that, when I ate my lunch today, I was in a rush and I was really scoffing it down. And, it's probably why I can still feel it in my stomach now, because I was woofing it down because I was just trying to get it done. The biggest thing is rest. The magic happens when you're sleeping, and I tell my kids that all the time. And rest unapologetically. It's okay to sit down. It's okay to do nothing. It is okay to just take it in. Your body's not lazy, it's wise. It needs a rest. You're not failing. You're not going to lose at anything. None of that stuff. Body's going to feel good for rest. And if you feel like you need to rest, listen to it. Your body's telling you that for a reason. Listen to it and tune into why. And ask yourself these questions. So remember, you are not broken. You are not broken at all. You don't need to be fixed. You don't need to be fixed by a trend or any quick fix that comes along the way. You need to tune into your body and trust your instincts, because your body is your best teacher and it's already in you, and you can get the results that you want from tuning into what works from you. So thanks for hanging out with me. And if this episode resonates with you or somebody that you know, please make sure that you share it with them so that we can get more people starting to tune in to their bodies and feeling better about themselves and finding long-term health and wellness goals, not just jumping on some trend that is going to keep us in that yo-yo cycle. I'm going to love yous and leave yous. I'll speak to you very soon. Bye.